environmental law and construction law from Chicago, Illinois. We're helping to create the next generation of lawyers with high emotional intelligence through a weekly book club and daily practical posts at facebook.com/lawyersEQ. During our book club discussions, we'll do a deep dive into books that will help us develop emotional intelligence skills and specifically think about how we can use these skills in our law practices. I'll be here every Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Central for this discussion, and it is a discussion, so please liberally use the box below on whatever platform you're using to ask questions and to make comments. I don't sit here as an expert. On the contrary, I look forward to learning with all of you and from you. I'm really interested in hearing your opinions and observations. So welcome to today's discussion. Again, it's great to see you. Get a little more light here so you can see me. I'm not completely in the dark. There we go. Great to see everybody. And let's move on with the discussion. And as you can see, this is a little slideshow that I have here. We are on several different platforms today. People on Instagram are getting the behind-the-scenes look. We should also be on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and Twitch. So welcome to all of you who are joining from around the social media verse. The home of the Lawyers Emotional Intelligence Book Club is on Facebook at facebook.com/lawyersEQ. So for those of you who have never seen this show before, never met me before, just a little bit about me. I'm a younger lawyer, graduated in 2003 from DePaul in Chicago. I'm senior counsel at Picard and Abramson, which is a mostly construction law firm based out of New York, New Jersey, but we do have an office in Chicago. I practice civil litigation, construction law, and environmental law. Why I do this show is because it is my mission to identify and share historically correct knowledge and resources in an inspiring and entertaining format in order to help others meet and exceed goals and standards in every area of their lives. So we're just going to go back and talk just briefly about what we have talked about to sort of do a recap for people that are new. We're in the self-management portion of emotional intelligence, and we are dealing with the stress portion of self-management, which is dealing with stress and not letting it get the best of you, is an emotional intelligence skill. The stress solution basically breaks down the stress components into 4 areas. One is purpose, because of course you will be less stressed out if you are aligning your actions and your plans with your overall purpose. And we get in touch with our purpose with several different ways. First, with affirmations. Second, with reframing. Third, gratitude. Fourth, scheduling your time and your morning routines. And then fifth, how to live more, which is to do what you love, to act with intent, to have a long-term vision, and to engage with others by doing things for others. And that's how we live out our purpose. We've ended the purpose discussion, and we're going into the relationship portion of the discussion. And then later on, we'll get into body and mind. But those are the areas that have the potential to stress us out, but also have the ability to help us deal with stress, to lessen our stress. So what we're going to be talking about today is some recent news. As always, we're going to talk about last week's action item, and we're going to continue on discussing Dr. Chatterjee's book, The Stress Solution, with relationships, and we're going to talk about the sense of touch and how that can reduce our stress. So some disclaimers here, as always. First, this is not a replacement for any necessary psychological or medical treatment. Consult a doctor or other medical professional if you have any sort of deep depression or if you're contemplating suicide, anything like that. Remember, I'm a lawyer, not a doctor. And then today we have an additional disclaimer, which is there is such a thing as inappropriate touch. So remember, in anything we talk about today, you need consent before you start touching people that don't want to be touched, especially in this environment. And we're going to talk specifically about um, uh, how the quarantine and COVID has really changed the quote unquote touch discussion, and we'll get there. So let's talk about some recent news. This is a quote that I saw in a news story. There was a Twitter chat, and the big takeaway is that, and talking about about mental health and how sometimes or oftentimes the issue of mental health has a stigma for attorneys. And the quote is that things are absolutely improving as awareness of the issues have been heightened and more people share their stories. Their conversation has been normalized in the industry. So that's a big change. So I would love to hear your comments on whether or not you believe that that's true. If you were to raise the issue in your law firm or at a bar association or what have you, do you believe that at least the conversation is changing? From my perspective, I think things are changing. I mean, just the fact that I have this show and people comment on it and are interested in these issues show, I think, to some extent that yes, the conversation is definitely changing. There's not as much of a stigma on these issues as there has been in the past. I'm a member of the ABA section of litigation, and they do pretty much every leadership meeting now. It seems like they talk about or have a speaker on mental health issues, making addiction issues. They have a whole task force relating to litigators who have those issues. Because face it, I mean, lawyers, litigators in particular, are more stressed out, more able to become addicted, I think, because of our personalities, because of other issues. But yeah, I would love to hear in the comments whether or not you believe there are, things are getting better in terms of the stigma, or things are getting worse. What is it like in your firm? What is it like, on the street talking about mental health issues? Is this still very much a stigma or not? I remember, back in the day, and maybe it's still this way, you had to provide sort of a mental health history on a character and fitness form, at least for Illinois. I don't know if it's like that anymore. But I think that's where it sort of starts, right? Where you're thinking, well, if I disclose this, am I going to pass character and fitness? And so, I think that's where the stigma comes from. And then, as lawyers, we're oftentimes, dealing with the fact that, people, want results. They have certain expectations as to, hours billed. They have expectations as to, face time, how much time you're going to be in the office. And, they don't want to hear excuses. And some of those excuses include, of course, that I'm having this issue, having maybe a mental health issue, maybe I'm having an addiction issue. And how do firms deal with that sort of information? So, again, it's an important issue. That's why we're dealing with it on this in this portion of the book club, and would love to see your thoughts on that. So let's move on to the next topic, which is last week's action item. Last week's action item. It was, and again, we were dealing with the purpose section and the live, which was to do something you love, do something with mindful intent, to do something that enhances or is aligned with your long-term vision, and then also as something to engage with others. So that was last week's action item, was a choose your own adventure. was to, number one, find something you love or something you loved before or something you think that you will love and want to try and do it every day. Would love to see in the comments, did you do that and how did it go? Number two is to do something each day, no matter how small, with real mindful intent. That would be cooking a meal without distraction, showering with intent, maybe doing some meditation. Third would be to write down your vision through a vision board, or to write down one goal and take the first step to achieve it. And then to do at least one thing for someone else to engage with others. So again, we'd love to hear what you did. As I think I mentioned in the past, in terms of doing, finding something you love, I've taken up, through an app, actually learning how to play the piano. Let me just maybe turn the camera on. There we go. I learning to play the piano. I think I've kind of hit a threshold on that in terms of the app, but it's something that I really enjoy. The nice thing about the app, and it's called Simply Piano, is that you get to play songs that are popular and play some old songs that are really good. So you're not just playing, Mozart and I don't know, whatever other composers, it's not classical music. There is some classical music, but it's not all. But there are many other things from, old music, 50s, 60s, all the way through basically today. So that's fun. So I'm wondering if you guys, if y'all heard or did anything that you love for this week. The second part is to do something with intent. So something with intention. So taking some time where you're basically turning the brain off for a minute, and you are getting in touch with just whatever you're doing. Whether it's taking a shower mindfully, where you're feeling the water hit your body, the warmth or the coldness. Whether it's doing some sort of structured meditation, whether it's whatever it could be. For me, sometimes it's going out and pulling the weeds, doing some gardening, doing that sort of without any any music or anything like that. Just turning the brain off for like 10 minutes before I go and do my work. So would love to hear what you've done or do to live a little more mindfully. The third part is the vision. So are you aligning what you do, or do you have a vision with your life, first of all? And then are you aligning what you're doing with your vision? So I do have an example. Let me go to the slide again, because I did that. This is the one that I chose. I did a vision board. There it is. And you can see there's several different things here. Just starting at the bottom, I guess, is where I started. And there are 4 Disney castles there. And so part of what I would like to do, part of my vision is as a travel goal, which is to visit all of the Disney theme parks around the world. I've already obviously been to Disneyland and Walt Disney World, but there are parks in Paris, France, which I believe is the one on the left. Then there's one in Hong Kong. There's one in Shanghai, China, and then one in Tokyo. So those are that's a travel goal that I want to get. And then also there's that 80K is sort of like an income goal. So these are the sorts of goals that you can make. So I think the travel goal and the income goal kind of dovetail together. And for me, it's trying to get to that goal by doing continuous business development activities to make sure that I'm taking care of myself, so I can pursue and reach those business goals, as well as doing some other things to supplement my income as well. So that's those two. The glory of God is man fully alive, quote from Saint Irenaeus, is just to remind me of, my spirituality goals, and that, oftentimes I'm a little, it may not come across on this video cast or vlog, or on the show, but I'm sometimes a little reserved, too reserved, and feeling fully alive is part of that spiritual goal as well. So sort of combining the two. The next one is the GIF, or which is, best shape of my life and hitting running goals, and I just tore my groin. It's just to remind me both that I do have an exercise goal, but also not to take myself a little too seriously, because for various reasons. But I don't have, my goal is not to get all ripped, but I do want to lose weight, get more toned, and so I would like to get in the best shape of my life. And the ones on top, I think, dovetail together as well. Marquette is where I went to undergrad, and so that's why that's there. But also because one of my goals is to pay for my kids' college, so that's why that is there. And then my family, of course, I'm trying to be the best father and husband that I can be, and I want to be a good example for them. So that's my wife and my two kids. My youngest son, who is on the second from the right, was in a show of the Wizard of Oz this past winter, and he was the Munchkin Mayor. That's why he's sort of in that getup. But so that's my action. That was my action item, and to start taking action steps for that. And then I can't show you this because I'm have Instagram Live on my phone right now, but I also took a screenshot of this vision board and then put it as my home screen on my phone. So it is going to be a good reminder every time that it's going to be a good reminder every time I look at my phone, which, as you know, is quite frequently. And then finally, of this live, which is engagement, which is engage with others by doing things for others. And you actually reduce stress when you do things for others. So having a reminder to do something every day for somebody else. If you're a parent, sometimes that's very easy, sometimes not, depending on how your kids are being. But seriously, doing something for others aligns with your purpose. And what I suggested is, think about what is the one group that you want to serve, whether that's kids in need, homeless people, environment, and people that are affected by pollution. There are tons of different groups that you can help. And so thinking about that in particular and engaging with those folks will help you to reduce your stress. So again, we'd love to hear what you did this week or what you did today in any of those categories. So let's move on to today's subject, which is relationships. Now, again, so we're delving into this new topic of relationships because relationships is something that can help you or hurt you, right? If you have a very bad relationship, it's something, and just relationships in general. I don't mean your, intimate relationships or anything like that. I'm just talking about relationships generally. If you have relationships that are disastrous, that are bad, you will feel bad as a result, and they will stress you out. If you have good relationships, then as it says in this first slide, nourishing relationships will help you to de-stress. You feel happy when you're connected to friends, family, and those around you. When you feel disconnected, then you're not going to feel as happy. And lack of connection is a major stressor in our lives and is having a devastating effect on our relationships. So that is with a lack of human touch and a deprioritization of friendship. So those are the two things that we're going to be talking about in terms of relationship. The lack of human touch, which can be a problem, which will stress us out, and the deprioritization of friendship. So we're going to start with the sense of touch. So touch is a part of our deepest mammalian systems. It's the first sense we develop as a fetus, and being held as a child helps form vital neural pathways and feeds emotional connections. And studies have actually confirmed the primal importance of physical touch. So what Dr. Chatterjee says in this book is he talks about a study that was done where Romanian children were studied. And those who received food and water but grew up without any touch at all, they later on developed some very serious behavioral problems. And as adults, they had difficulties attaching to others. And Dr. Chatterjee says that some even suffered delayed development of the gut. And those children, interestingly, the children who had even the briefest moments of affectionate touch from volunteers didn't suffer these problems to the same degree. So that's why they often want volunteers for hospital rooms with babies, nurseries, because the children need to be hugged, to be held, because it's just the most basic sense that we have, and it really will cause severe impacts to us if we're not held. So that's why they have those words, and they're always looking for volunteers for that as well. So here's another important thing. So this is basketball. So we're talking about studies confirming the importance of physical touch. Dr. Chatterjee cites a study that says members of basketball teams who use more hands-on interactions with each other perform better and ending up higher in their leagues. So more high fives, more I don't know, just more touching on the shoulders, on the backs. All of that actually helps to improve their success on the basketball court. Here was another interesting one where waiters. So if a waiter will taps you on the shoulder as they give you the bill, you'll likely tip more, which I found to be fascinating. And then Dr. Chatterjee also cites a study where he says visiting a library, if they are treated in a more tactile way, they reported a much more positive experience than those who weren't touched. So human touch actually can affect our behavior and can help us to succeed. So why is that? So let's talk about the benefits of human touch. Well, it can do a lot of different things for us. It can slow down our heart rate, lower our blood pressure. It reduces levels of cortisol, which is a stress hormone. It raises levels of natural killer cells. That's part of our immune system to fight off threats such as infections and cancer cells. It triggers the release of serotonin, which is the feel-good chemical, and it just feels good. The skin gives information to our brain that things are going well and puts us into the thrive state. And remember, that's where we're going, right? We want to be in the thrive state, not the stress state. So if you have a lack of connection, a lack of physical contact, a lack of the sense of touch, you are more likely to be in that stress state. On the other hand, if you have more of that touch, more of the sense of touch, if you feel that more connectedness, then you're more likely to be in that thrive state. And therefore, you're going to be less stressed out. So that's why touch is so important to what we're talking about here, and most important to your stress state. So as we said, a lack of touch can have devastating consequences. It's a stressor. It's a physical stressor on the body that helps throw you into a stress state. So it's so weird to think about it, right? We're talking about the lack of touch can be a physical stressor on the body. Dr. Chatterjee also says that a lack of touch may be the root of some of society's biggest problems. And the theory is that the brain does not get appropriate nourishment from those pathways. It will crave that nourishment from elsewhere. So it could be a contributing factor behind rising levels of addictive behavior, such as the misuse of drugs, alcohol, and gambling. And it could be a significant macro stress dose if it's a problem from childhood. So as we talked about, those Romanian children who were not being held. So those Romanian children who were not being held, that actually became a macro stress dose. So that's like a major event in your life that will affect you for your future. It's going to affect your future. That's what a macro dose is. It's a triggering event, a huge event in your life that results in stress, and it actually makes your stress threshold smaller. So for most of us, we have a wider stress level where you have these little micro stress doses, and then you're okay until you get to a threshold, and then you're sort of over the top where you can't take it anymore. For people with macro stress doses, so those significant traumatic events in their lives, their threshold is actually much smaller than people without those macro stress doses. So a lack of touch can be that macro stress dose. So let's talk about some ways that you can get more touches in. Now, again, there's good touch and bad touch. Make sure that you have some consensual touching going on. Number one, hugging someone close to you every day. Hopefully, you have somebody in your life, whether that's a family member, friend, a child, who you can hug every day. That will help you get more touch in. Make an effort to hug your children at every opportunity. Now, that may work very well for little kids. For older kids, Dr. Chatterjee says you really should still hug them. My kids still want to be hugged. If you had a teenage boy, maybe not so much, but my kids still do. So hugging them at every opportunity. If you have an elderly friend or parent, ensure some level of physical touch. It doesn't matter whether that's a hug or a pat on the back or rub on the shoulder, whatever you want to do, but make sure there's some physical touch. Because remember, oftentimes for these elderly friends or parents, they're not getting that touch. And so not only are you getting the benefits of touch, but they're also getting those benefits. Dr. Chatterjee talks about the benefits of physical play, so roughhousing, with your kids, whether that's sports or wrestling or whatever you want, but that's part of touch as well. And then there's some other ways, which is to book a massage. That's always a great way to get touch in. Giving someone a pat on the back when giving them praise. It's another way. To apply cream and moisturizer. So just having, touching your own hands, stroking your own hands and arms with cream and moisturizer, that helps. And then, of course, spending time with a pet. So if you have a dog, petting your dog, spending some time with your pets is great as well. So those are some ways, and I'll say pre-quarantine, to get that time in. And now we'll talk now about ways to get in touch while quarantining. And this is, I feel a little, this is a little complicated, a little maybe controversial, because I've seen a lot of articles that talk about how people are actually getting fatigue from these video and Zoom calls that people are doing, right? So if people are on video all the time, that actually may fatigue them quite a bit, and maybe that'll stress you out being on the calls. But I think what I'm going to be talking about is not your work related Zoom calls or what have you. What I'm talking about is having a FaceTime with a friend or a family member, maybe having an online class, doing something that you want to do, as opposed to having something that's thrust upon you, or some sort of obligation. So remember, there's a difference between the two. So let's talk about why that might work actually. This comes from the Texas Medical Center, an article from them. It said that while nothing can wholly replace the benefits of positive human touch, virtual alternatives can help alleviate the effects of touch starvation. So this is what we're talking about. We're talking about the fact that there are a lot of people who are actually going through touch starvation because of the coronavirus pandemic. Whether that's because, well, it could be a lot of reasons. I'm just thinking, people maybe who live alone, who are working from home. Maybe they have family that's far away. Maybe they have friends who live far away, or maybe they have friends who live close, or family who live close, but maybe they have compromised immune systems. So, or people that are just scared of getting the virus, which is completely understandable. These are people who don't want to touch anybody, but as a result, you are you're going to have touch starvation, where your body needs to be touched, and you're not getting that. And so that's what the coronavirus situation is doing to us. So this is what the Texas Medical Center says. It says that you can have almost the same element if you connect by video chat, whether it's FaceTime or Zoom or WebEx. You may not be able to engage in physical touch, but you need to be able to see each other. So video chatting, they say, is actually about 80% as effective as in-person contact, which I think a lot of us, we could feel, pretty good about, because I think all of us feel like, is it good enough just because we're on video and we're seeing each other? But I actually think, having participated in a few of these, I actually can understand why that might be the case. I've done a few of these things where, I did a virtual wine tasting with my in-laws and my sister and brother-in-law and sister-in-law, and it was quite fun. My wife and I had fun, turning the mute on and off, and just engaging with the family, and it actually worked out pretty well. And then a good friend of ours from college, we've been having some video calls with him and with his kids. And his kids, love being on video calls and actually taking pictures of us, while we're on the calls. So they enjoy that. And I wonder, all of you who are watching, how do you feel that the video calls have been? Do you feel like you get something out of the video calls, or do you feel like it's good, but it's not the same thing? Do you think it's 80% good? Would love to hear what you have to say about that. But yeah, I mean, I think of course they're not the same. And, for me, I think, um, at least for the personal ones that we've done, they've been fun. And yeah, maybe a little bit, stressed out a little bit about, some things. But I think, for the work things, for me, it's, if you're on a Zoom call, you always have to be on, right? If your video is on, anybody can look at you. Anyone can pin your video, so they can have the full screen of you, which is kind of, to me, kind of weird. But you could do anything, and so you really have to be on all the time if you're going to have your video on in Zoom. So I can understand why that would be very, very fatiguing, um, if you have that. And if you have several of those in a row, I can see how that would be a problem. Because if you think about it, in a normal meeting setting, if you're in person, yeah, you could look around the room and look at other people, but typically you're focusing on the speaker, typically. But on a Zoom call where you're at home, you can, your eyes will wander, and so you'll look at other people in the boxes on your screen, and so yeah, I mean that can definitely be fatiguing being on all of these Zoom calls. So, but if it's a personal one, you definitely can get some, at least an 80% benefit from being on a Zoom call as opposed to just a normal phone call. So it's important that you do that, especially if you're somebody who is living at home, doesn't have that opportunity to hug someone to get that sense of touch in. So some other ways to get in that sense of touch while quarantining: online classes are great. So online yoga and workout classes. What's interesting is I was reading an article where they said that you can get a sense of touch in just by your skin moving. So exercise, even if it's not online, exercise actually will help you with that sense of touch. But also, I think if you're doing an online class and you're maybe you're having a conversation maybe online with the instructor. Maybe you're seeing some of the other people in the class doing the exercising. So online workout classes are great. Singing and dancing are activities that release oxytocin in the brain. And again, sort of, the singing, you're moving your tongue and your lips and your mouth. Dancing, obviously, it's going to be a whole body experience. So those are other ways that you're sort of moving the skin, getting that sense of touch in. Obviously, I talked about pets. Pets have been proven to be therapeutic during stressful times. And I've seen so many people who have either bought pets or got pets from a shelter to add pets to the family while in quarantine. It's a great idea because, again, you're getting that sense of touch by petting your dog or your cat, or I don't know, chameleon or whatever it is. But you're getting that sense of touch. The pet is actually de-stressing you when you do that. And then again, yoga, stretching, sit-ups, pretty much any exercise is really going to be helpful to you. And if you're facing touch starvation as a result of the quarantine, that's something that really can help you. So would love to hear if you've done anything while in quarantine to help you with that sense of touch, whether it's pets, whether it's online classes, whether it's Zoom calls, and how that's gone for you. Because it's something that I don't think people. I mean, people are freaked out because of the virus. People are freaked out because businesses have closed and government orders as a result. But I haven't seen a lot of discussion around the touch starvation that people are feeling because, yeah, you're quarantined from the outside world, but you're also maybe just a little bit freaked out because, even for your own family and friends, some people are more, open about it. They don't care, catch as catch can. But, a lot of people are feeling stressed out because of the virus. But then you add on top of that the fact that you can't touch anybody. I mean, I've gone to stores lately where, people are just like around me and I feel like, oh my gosh, I shouldn't be even this close to people. I can't imagine if they touched me. It would just freak me out a little bit. And so luckily I have, family, I have a dog. And so I don't have to worry about that as much in terms of, stress, a touch starvation, if you will. So we're down to this week's action item. So we've talked about a ton of things, and so there's two things that I want all of us to do during this week when we're talking about touch. Number one is if you have the opportunities within your own house, whether that's family members, whether that's children, whether that's pets. I want you to sort of amp that up a little bit. So, you know, think about all the things that we talked about that we can be actually de-stressed through the sense of touch. So, take your dog out for more walks, play with your dog, play with your kids, hug your wife, hug your husband, give your kids pats on the back, on the shoulder, play sports with them, you know, do things within your own house in the backyard that's going to, help you to deal with that, with the stress levels. Then the other thing is, I want you to pick maybe one thing that you can do online, or two things that you can do online that will help you with that 80% part of things. So whether that's taking an online music class, online dance class, online exercise class. I mean, there are so many people now that do these online classes. If you've done an online class, let me know in the comments. Because my kid is actually right now doing a Taekwondo class that they've set up as a result of the studio being closed and people being quarantined. Let's see, I've seen music classes. My older son and my younger son both were in choir. That went to online. E-learning now obviously is huge, and it's weird because I mean technology has come from such a far way. I was talking to a guy a couple of days ago, and I'm mentoring him through this public interest law program, and he was telling me he's going through law school, and they actually were all of the classes are actually online, but not just like e-learning like my kids do, where they put assignments up. The kids do the assignments sort of on their own. This was actually you go online and the teacher is teaching, and then obviously they can't do the Socratic method as much, but so it's like more like lecture and then taking questions at the end sort of thing. But, so everything now is going online. So I want you to pick maybe one or two classes, things that you can do online so that you can be part of a group. So you not only see the instructor, but you also see the other people that are participating in the class as well. And then on top of that, I want you to think about maybe two or three people that you can have a regular discussion with online, whatever video you use, whether that's there's a Google Meetups, there's Facebook now has rooms, Instagram I saw now has rooms that you can be in, there's Zoom, Google Hangouts, WebEx, millions of other things, not millions, several other options that you can use. But I really think it's really going to help because a lot of people are feeling isolated. A lot of people are going through this touch starvation. And I hope that if you are having those issues, I hope that number one, that this video is helping you as well. And let me tell you, the one thing that I can do on this using this restreaming is I can bring people into this room, whether that's on Instagram, there's actually a feature, I think, where people can ask questions and and requests to be on the show. I can bring them in that way. And then also through the restreaming, you can just send me an email. I'm at D Scriven-Young at pecla.com. You can send me an email and I can bring you onto the show. We'll have to set that up beforehand. But yeah, would love to bring people into the show because it's important that people have some interaction with this. And yeah, it's an emotional intelligence skill to to communicate. But I never really thought of the sense of touch as being a de-stressor. I think a lot of people, think that, getting a massage is de-stressing. And I think people feel that, well, it's because they're working my muscles. Yes, that's part of it, but also a big part of it is just that sense of touch that you're getting as well. So obviously you can't do that during quarantine unless you have a kid that wants to beat on your back a little bit, or a nice spouse or partner. But yeah, so those are the things that that you can do this week. So either, what do you, number one, the resources you have. So family in your house. Two is an online class that you could take. Three is booking some time with a friend or family member to, on a regular basis, have a video call, because it is 80% as good as having that conversation in person. And then there was one other thing you can do. So let me just bring up that slide. Something that you may want to do, I think tough to do, but this is something that Dr. Chatterjee talked about, which is to keep a touch diary. So discover how many touches you give and receive on maybe a daily basis. He says for a week, but because this is a weekly action item, you pretty much can do it per day, and then try to double that tally by week 2. So maybe by the 3rd day, try to double that that touch tally, and then triple it by the end of the month, or triple it by the end of the week. Whatever you do, try to get out of that touch starvation and to get back into. And I know it's tough. I know with quarantining, with government restrictions, with everything that's going on, people feel that it's tough to do that, and people are freaked out by doing it. But there are a lot of ways virtually that you can get that in. So yeah, I'm not telling you to go out and have a hug chain with every member of your neighborhood. What I'm telling you is that you can do a lot of this stuff online and get an 80% benefit of it. And then I'm also telling you that you can book classes, do a lot of different things. So you're not alone. A lot of people are feeling alone. A lot of people are feeling like they don't know what to do, that the coronavirus, COVID, has gotten the best of them. Nonsense. There are lots of things that you can do. Reach out to your friends, reach out to your family members, because I can tell you, everyone is feeling alone or lonely because of the government restrictions. Everyone is feeling like they are starved for this sense of touch. So the more that you reach out, the more that you engage in online classes, you engage with others, the better it will be for you, and frankly, the better it will be for them as well. So that is what I have. I don't know if people want to stick around and have a more fulsome discussion of the sense of touch and things that you can do. Again, I'm curious as to, whether you've felt that these Zoom calls are enough, or if you feel like it's not the same. You can't deal with it, and you'd rather just be by yourself. But would love to hear if you had any suggestions, any comments on ways you can do it. One of the things that I've been playing with lately is a Zoom background. So, that's a fun thing that you can do, is to actually create a background. The background you're seeing now, whether you're on Instagram or on the other platforms, is just sort of my office. And that's not as fun as some of the other things that I've done. I've done things like created. Well, let me see if I can show you. Let me see if I can bring up the Zoom backgrounds that I've made. It might be tough to do, but let's see if I can bring it up just for fun. I don't know if they're in my downloads. And obviously you can't see this if you're, if you're listening on the audio later on. But yeah, I can't seem to bring it up. But one of them is a Disney Skyliner themed. Oh, here we go. Let's see. Oh, yep. Here we go. So this is, what is this one bringing up? Oh, this is my video. I don't know if this is going to play or not. But it's kind of a fun background where it's sort of like computerized, like taking like it's supposed to be taking my temperature, it's supposed to be doing a lot of different things. So that's just kind of a fun background. I have a Disney Skyliner background that shows, if you're familiar with Walt Disney World, they put in this new transportation system. So that's fun. Yeah, it doesn't look like the video is going to work. That's okay. That's okay. So there are lots of things you can do to make a Zoom call fun. And so, yeah, definitely. So make it as fun as you can. Have calls with people. It's fun. It's good. Enjoy it. And as I close down this session, I want you to remember, emotional intelligence is necessary for all lawyers, and we can learn these skills together. And that's exactly what we're doing during this book club discussion. And here's my contact information for anything. You could pretty much reach me at this phone number and email address. And probably the easiest way to get a hold of me, frankly, is through social media. I'm at Attorney DSY on pretty much every social media channel. And then, of course, the headquarters, if you will, for the Lawyers Emotional Intelligence Book Club is facebook.com/LawyersEQ. EQ standing for emotional quotient, but emotional intelligence. So thanks everyone for joining me today. And just one programming note, next week, we're actually, speaking of things you can do while in quarantine, next week at this time and day, I will be participating in a birthday drive-by parade. I don't know if you've heard about any of these. These are because people can't have birthday parties anymore. They're having people. They're having the celebrant would stand in their driveway with their family, and then people will actually drive by, honk their horns, wave, what have you, maybe drop off gifts. So I'm actually participating in one of those at 7 o'clock next Wednesday. So we won't have one on Wednesday, but I think we're going to do it the next day, Thursday, probably later, probably like 8:30. I was thinking about sort of working with this time anyway, just to move it a little bit later on a Wednesday. So we'll see how that works. But yeah, we're probably going to go probably 8:30 on Thursday. I'll send out some information via social media once I figure it out. But I think let's just say 8:30 next Thursday, and maybe we'll get some new people in. But you're definitely invited to join me. And what we're going to be talking about during that time is going to be friendships and how we have not prioritized as we have in the past our friendships, and we're going to talk about how we can put things back in the right priority. So hope everyone is well, hope everyone is safe. Everyone have a great week. If you need to reach out to me, please do. I'm at Attorney DSY. Have a great week, and I will see you next Thursday, 8:30 p.m. Central.